My name is Flavia Tanardini. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Fleet Space Technologies. And today we are here for the Fleet Explorer series with an amazing person. We have just met here in beautiful Vancouver in Canada. We have spent the past 10 minutes getting to know each other. I can't wait to talk to him. Welcome, Kenny.
Thank you, Flavia.
Or should I call you Dr. Kenny Broad? Try to be very serious.
Let's be serious the entire time.
We will try.
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, where are you coming from?
So I flew in from Miami, Florida.
Amazing.
So
Okay.
nice tropical, the opposite corner of the continent in many ways, but it's like so different here.
Vancouver is beautiful.
Yeah.
Kenny, I told you that we started this podcast series because I'm passionate about people that explore. Okay, people who have a soul of explorers. You just asked me, what are you, a rocket scientist? What does that mean? It means that when I was a little girl, I was 7, 8, 5. Somehow I was looking at the stars and dreaming to go there. I always wanted to be an astronaut. I always wanted to go and discover. I just was born on this life with the idea I need to go. I need to travel. I need to discover. I need just like a fire. Tell me when you realized that you had that fire. Tell me a moment in your early life when you're like, I'm different.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because it's a blessing and a curse in some ways, because I guess I knew very early I wasn't comfortable in my own surroundings. You wanted something, what's further out there, what's different. And it wasn't for, rational reasons at all. It was just this feeling, whether it's genetic or whatnot. And I had a nice family life. I was not escaping my parents, but I remember waking up. I still wake up really early. And I would just get on my bicycle at 4 a.m. before school and just go as far as I could, or go somewhere I had never been before. And I thank my parents because they weren't very controlling. It's maybe a different world back then. But I used to jump on the city buses when I had time and just ride to a different part of town. And there were some shady parts of town in Miami, and just jump off and walk around. So it was not necessarily even seeing wildlife or the ocean, which is really what got me, but it was just what's new, what's out there. We're only around once, so see whatever you can.
Tell me why water and not space? People ask me all the time, why space? And it's hard to tell, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know what it is in our makeup. Maybe it's our past lives, but to me, I was attracted to the water. It's something about losing gravity, which you do too.
On the other side.
But I guess the accessibility when you're growing up, you grew up in Rome, right?
Yeah.
You can't just pop into the ocean. That would be just it was so easy. It was so accessible. I mean, Miami is surrounded on 3 sides by water, and actually, including underneath. And that's where the underwater caves are, in the aquifer and the groundwater beneath our feet. So in some ways you can't avoid the water. So if you can't fight it, join it.
And listen, what did you feel at that time? And what do you feel now when you are in water?
It's just, even jumping into a pool, and it sounds so silly, it just feels like a release and escape. And maybe it's even better now because it's so hard to escape cell phones, emails, the sort of technological world.
The stress of life.
The stress of life. And there's something about getting submerged.
A lot of people ask me, Flavia, why space? I come from a family of 5. I don't know if you had, I'm like you, good family. No one did space engineering. Right. And I love what you said. I think there is a past life. I think there is some DNA, some generational growth. My theory is explorers are made in many generations. There is something that we don't know. I'm a scientist, I'm a nerd, but I don't think there is something that we know why someone is born with that urge and that love. For me, it was the same. Space, for you was water. You feel it. When you think about it, it makes your nervous system calming down. You feel like you are where you belong. Is that what you feel when you are in the
Yeah,
water?
I think you hit it. It's some kind of calmness that I don't get from other environments. But when you look up at the sky, do you feel that? Is that
Yes,
the
I feel that. So when I was 10 years old, we had this beautiful house in the middle of Italy under the stars. In the middle of August, there is a beautiful period where there are a lot of it's called San Lorenzo, and
okay?
there
Yeah,
are a lot of stars shooting all over. And I was there in my garden looking up and thinking, wow, this is way bigger that this garden. There's so much more, you know. Um, Something that I realized growing, and I wonder what you think. There is a moment in which that urge for space, for water, comes and meets fear, because the urge pushes you further, right? It pushes you further down the water and further down a cave and starting doing some very risky things. Tell me about love, passion, calm, and then the sense of danger and fear. How did you start reconciling that?
in retrospect and after some close calls, then I think you start to realize how important fear is and how much to trust your instincts. And there's sort of the difference, I think, but I would call it you want a good amount of respect and nervousness going into something, but fear becomes something debilitating and affecting your judgment. We have a saying in cave diving that or I'll call it a loose rule. Anyone can call a dive at any time for any reason.
Mm-hmm.
So, you and I might be diving on a dive we've done 50 times. There's nothing wrong that day, but something feels wrong to me. And I've been with people like this, and my mentor, he did it once, and that really sort of showed me that, you know what, take your ego out. Anyone can say, no, it's a wrong day for whatever reason.
Is because you think that the body and the instinct, the perceptions of the environment around you, you need to listen to it, right?
Yeah.
Your brain is the most incredible AI engine. So it just put all those information together and makes a conclusion. I feel uncomfortable here. We go.
Yep.
Is that true?
No, absolutely. I think that's a really good way to put it and it's not rational necessarily, but you have to trust it. And you have to also know when you have to overcome it as well. And I think one of the things that I struggle with is once you've committed to something, to use cave diving or, once you're on the rocket ship, right? Or once you're, a kilometer in the cave, you're committed. So if you start to get that fear then, and you start to get the emotions that come with fear, right? Your heart rate going up, your respiration going up, all the worst things you want, right? When you're breathing out of a limited gas supply. So you really train yourself to cut out emotions.
You started this podcast saying that the beautiful, curse and passion of being who you are. It is like sometimes you feel lonely, sometimes you feel on top of the world, sometimes you feel that you got all the instruments to do what you're doing, but that impacts your life. It is hard to be special, isn't it?
Yeah.
A lot of people think as well, like you just said something about training your brain, right? I was a professional sport. I love sports. A lot of people that work athlete love sport, because I think one of the beautiful things about success that people don't understand, or any form of success, is discipline. Like you have to work really hard to do what you have done. I'm sure you had to work physically, mentally, every day, even if you don't want to, even if you wake up and you don't care about, you just don't want to do it, you'd have to train. Tell me about discipline. Tell me about building the muscles to become who you became. Like it doesn't happen overnight.
I think much more difficult is the psychological side of it, especially on an expedition. There's a certain amount of loneliness. There's a certain there's the isolation part.
Yeah.
There's the psychology of dealing in group dynamics in a small, tight space. I can imagine a space capsule, right? That's really, but in the case of cave diving, it's really about ultimately keeping your breath and your heart rate under control. And so that's a lot of meditation type and visualization, right? So you're thinking, you'll meditate or visualize the entire dive, from the drive to the dive site, if you're driving there, to the gear preparation, to, all the way through the whole dive, so that it's in there somewhere when it happens. You're not thinking, what should I do?
It's interesting what you're saying. So technology created a space for people not as, I don't even know what word to use, but crazy as you, but like a normal handsome and beautiful as you, to actually access something special. Like in the space industry, something happened in the past month and the past years, really. Like there are a couple of very, very rich people that build this capsule that you can spend, if you got a couple of millions to go there to see Earth from the top. Like, we just had an actress from Hollywood going up there.
I saw that,
and people are like, oh, this is not good because space is just science. We should not have, this type of people going up there. I like when technology allows all humanity to have access to these beautiful places. It's interesting. And there is still a difference between recreational cave diving and going into the complex expedition that you did. Right, correct?
Right. No, absolutely. And I think you hit on something important also. If, maybe it's getting this, famous actress to see sort of our Earth in a different light that can change the way people think. And, it's good for me, I think, because I work a lot and care a lot about our groundwater, right?
Yeah.
The water that's beneath our feet, out of sight, out of mind. We tend to care about the rivers, but it's, 95% of the world's fresh water, if you take away what's locked out in ice, is groundwater in these underground systems. So the more people who are aware of that, care about it,
it's important,
the better also.
I agree.
Yeah.
So in how many years have you been doing this?
I've been scuba diving since I was 11 and I'm 22 now.
So 11 years. Okay.
I'm 58.
Oh my God.
But I started cave diving when I was, I think, 19.
So you've been doing this for a long time and you love Earth, because I love Earth too. And it's a beautiful place. Like in my industry, we're all going to Mars and the moon. They're not as beautiful, it turns out. They are quite complex, but we love Earth. And we are not taking care of Earth. And we haven't been taking care of Earth. Have you seen the difference in the past? What is the thing that makes you feel a little bit really sad when you are in an expedition and you see, hey, 30 years ago, this would have been different? Like, what's happening in nature that you see?
Yeah, I mean, I think when, because there's also caves in the ocean. So then what's great about caves in the ocean, you're diving through a beautiful coral reef and the fish. And so you see changes in the marine ecosystem, from overfishing, pollution.
You see it, hey?
Yeah, death by 1,000 cuts. And now we have a lot more ocean acidification and warming related to climate change. So it's
you see it.
You see that, it's obvious. And then the other problem in the inland caves, so it might be in the middle of the state or the middle of the country. We're drawing with large scale agriculture. We're drawing out so much water that it reduces the flow of fresh water. When you reduce the flow of fresh water, you can have algae buildup. And there's unique, like space, we have extremophile forms of life that have very precarious, chemical balance
and
to be able to live in, that we know almost nothing about, that can teach us not just about what life, the evolution of life, 3.5 billion years ago, but also what might live in Europa, what might live in these others, right? That can live in hydrogen sulfide that would kill you and I with 1 or 2 breaths. So it's what's amazing. I'm sort of going all over the place, but you can diving into a lot of the caves is like diving into a time capsule.
I know it's not, I love what you're saying. And, this is in our lifetime. Hey, we're not talking about 10 generations. It's you when you were 19 and now 20, 30 years in. There is so much we don't know about about this world. We don't know why you are in love with what you do. We don't know anything, not anything, a lot about oceans. We don't know a lot about space. And the explorers of humankind evolution, that was so brave. That was so brave. Like if we are going to Mars now, we will go with an incredible capsule with GPS, things to eat, availability to talk to your loved one at home. So
Right.
in time, there is more and more ability to know. The reality is that what you just said is interesting to me because there's so much that we still don't know that can influence just my life and your life. Like a lot of people ask me, why space? Why don't you focus your attention on, poverty or things that you can touch? The reality is that you and me, on other explorers in this world, we have our specific mission. And what I have learned in the things that you understand on the moon, or you think that you understand in a cave in the middle of the ocean, can be extremely useful to understand medicines, to understand all sorts of interesting problems with diseases or crops. There is so much. Do you agree?
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, there's a lot of times, especially I work in academia and universities where we write a lot of grants. So you always have to come up with good scientific rationalization
Why you want
to do
things?
what I love doing, right? But the truth is there's reasons to explore, to understand, certainly in caves, our natural resource management, how to best manage, because it's very hard to map some of these underwater systems without actually physically going in there and releasing dyes and other things. But then the other is I don't like the term, like the bioprospecting, but we get a lot of our medicines from nature.
I know.
Right? Venom. I work with someone a lot with venomous snakes, and a lot of our heart attack, diabetes, major medicines, pain relief come from venom. Sponges that have, all sorts of different anti-cancer properties. So there's a lot to learn from nature. And the biomimicry and the...
I saw the snake one when I was reading about you, and I'm like, oh, that's an interesting one, In space, for example, because of the lack of gravity, you can actually do experiments that you're not able to do here. So the way you create a medicine, the way it's quite incredible, the way you study cancer cells.
Yeah.
So it's the lack of gravity. Gravity really impacts, so it is.
It's a big laboratory for you.
It's a huge lab.
Yeah.
It is a huge lab. And not even talking about different type of species, like people is trying to get to Venus and Mars to find different species, but the ocean has got so many species that we haven't found yet. So the Earth is incredible, isn't it?
Can I ask you a question?
Go.
So, of the people who want to explore space, do you find a common personality type at all? Because I don't in caves.
Absolutely not.
Right.
Okay, so I always wanted to become an astronaut, okay? And I was very lucky a few years ago to apply for a position to become an astronaut. I'm very busy with fleet and my work, but I went to Europe and I did some selection to become an astronaut. So I got to see hundreds of people that applied to become an astronaut. And we are very, very lucky that one of my friends that went with actually got selected. And she's in the next podcast, okay?
Oh, wow.
I met there. So this was a selection to go to space. I met biologists, all sorts of disciplines, doctors, because going to space is not just about rocket scientists now anymore.
Right.
It's about how do you sustain life over there, okay?
Right.
And you notice all sort of personalities. So the major things is actually there is a psychological aspect of it that you were talking about before. Will they be able to be isolated, far from family, in a small environment? That is important. But I don't find a common. I've seen all sort of people, introverted, extroverted, like shy, not shy, absolutely crazy, calm. So I think it's nothing to do with personality, but it's everything to do with generational DNA.
Yeah. No, I agree.
But it's beautiful to spend time with them. Like I'm sure that when you spend time with your explorers, it feels different. Like, it feels like you don't have to justify yourself. Yeah. Like, why have you done this? Why are you doing this? You don't have to justify. People look at you and say, I get it.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. And it's difficult to love someone like this. Like if you think about your wife or your kids, it's difficult to love someone like this because you got fear to lose it. Or, I think you experience that.
Yeah.
But love explorers. But tell me something about, let's go back to tech, okay? When you have a mission, there's a lot of people involved to make it happen, okay? What data are you looking into? So what is that goes behind you, your instinct, your preparation, that you're like, okay, I need to have this minimum amount of data to be sure that this is going to be successful? What do you guys do?
I think you sort of have two styles in cave diving. A lot of the expeditions I've been on, maybe three. One is the expedition is actually testing the technology itself. Right. So you're bringing back data on what worked, what didn't work. Cave diving is very much a trial and error type, because it doesn't have, the European Space Agency behind it. It doesn't have NASA behind it. It doesn't have
an agency that spends
billions
billions of dollars.
That's spending millions of dollars. So it's someone in their, literally in their garage who came up with something new. And that's what's like
beautiful.
Super exciting and, about it. So there's that aspect, right? What worked, what didn't work. That can be a mission in itself. Then there's biology is certainly one. So looking for new creatures or collecting creatures. There's mapping. That's another one. And then something that I've been very involved with at the University of Miami is getting stalagmites, the speleothems. Those are the ones that grow from the bottom, the minerals. And taking samples, bringing those back to the lab. They get analyzed with uranium thorium dating, and then they do isotope analysis.
Beautiful.
To see, going back annually, sometimes 400,000 years almost, to see what was going on with the temperature, precipitation. And that's a lot of how we make sense, like tree rings, but they go back much further. Ice cores, where you get the trapped ice. So
much to learn.
So much to learn. So it is. And what happens is some of these caves, you only get one chance. And usually a lot of times we get the money to go there by also making a film or taking photographs. So you're going in with water sampling equipment, biology sampling equipment, a hammer and a chisel.
Oh my goodness.
It's a lot of multitasking. And that's sort of, you were asking, there's recreational cave diving, then there's exploration, sort of for exploration's sake, and then there's exploration. You add these science missions. That's when I think you're cranking up the risk a lot.
So in the company that I lead, things I'm fascinated about is mapping the subsurface. So we map the subsurface, we use satellites and we use sensors to actually trying to map the subsurface for, mineral discovery and explorers. Earth is incredible. Like, it just, most of the mining explorers, they drill to find rocks and understand. And in the past 20, 30 years, maybe even less, like 10 years, we use more geophysical, geoscience or in geophysics. So we listen to Earth seismic waves. We listen to, we measure gravity, electromagnetic, metallurgic signals, and we create a picture of the subsurface with structures and caves and faults down to kilometers and kilometers. These are really latest technologies, like the past 10 years. It's quite incredible. If you think that we are actually mapping, we are launching a probe to map the subsurface of the moon. I feel really kind of honored that in my lifetime, there are this technology that helps us to understand our planet a little bit better. And one of the big things is AI. So Earth has got a lot of data and, I think we are pretty smart, but AI really helps us to put all this data together. I got fascinated about this. Like we are in the middle. So we have done a lot of things that you will like analog place on Earth that represents Moon and Mars. So like glacials, Antarctica, Arctic, like Spanish islands, volcanoes, caves that are very similar to the structure that are on other planets, and mapping them mapping them. So I was interested on the mapping one. Like once you go into a cave, do you exactly know how it looks like?
We sort of have an understanding of the basic geology of that region. And if they're limestone caves, you sort of know there's phreatic tubes, but it's very, very hard to do any detailed subsurface before getting in there. So it's,
Would you use it if it was available?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
It will limit the risk. We will make better choices, I guess.
Make better choices. And also, well, it might put me out of business because a lot of times, for example, we'll get hired for like a commercial job because, let's say in Mexico, in Yucatan, right? They want to put a hotel, but they really don't know where the, stable and the voids are. Yeah.
Let's go back to feelings, emotions, and let's go back to like what is life.
I'm a guy. I don't want to talk about my emotions.
Let's break your wall of feeling, emotion. Tell me one time in your life in which you were in a mission, in which you went down there and you thought, oh my God, that's it. I'm going to die here.
I never thought I was going to die because I'm not going to let myself get that thought in my head.
I had a suspicion that you would have answered like this.
Yeah. But there were times I wanted to die.
Oh my goodness. Tell me more.
I went to a cave, a famous cave, Frasassi in Italy. This was probably 15 years ago now. And it was really cold and I was already hypothermic before I started the dive. I was diving alone, but I had a team of Italian colleagues. And on the way in, they had dropped a bag with some of my critical diving gear in one of the very cold lakes. So I had to free dive for a long time just to get my gear back and then keep caving. And then, long story short,
that sounds hard.
I was at the bottom of this cave that it was supposed to be an 11-hour round trip. And I think it took us over 30 hours. And I was at the bottom of the cave and, you have to do, it's a dry cave, to get out. And you have to do all the rope work and everything. In my hands, I couldn't move and everything's muddy. And
tell me one time in which you saw something so beautiful that you thought, if I actually do die in this moment, this is just incredible. And all the effort I've done is for this moment.
So I think you'll appreciate this. And I mean, I've seen things that are just incredibly beautiful. Like you can't even absorb. I don't think we're evolved to absorb the kind of sensory overload. But what I really like is, especially if I'm alone, is to be far back in a cave and turn off my lights.
Completely pitch black?
Well, yeah, and caves are completely pitch black. And really, when you're going in, when you see the pictures in magazines, it's because we brought in
lots of lights
and lots of lights. But in reality, it's this little beam. It's very analogous to space exploration, right? In that way.
Very black.
Very black as black can be. But just going there and turning off my lights, and you just realize our insignificance. And that's liberating in many ways. And would I say, yeah, in some ways, yes, I could die right then. There's certain meditations that are preparation for death, like yoga nidra is one type. And, it's very, I think, akin to that sort of acceptance. And
you really need to know that explorers are the reason why humanity goes ahead, the reason why humanity evolves, goes beyond. You have to tell yourself this every day when you feel lonely. I'm sure you do. When you look back and say, was it all worth it or not?
Yeah.
When you have those moments, like you can count on 2 hands people that do this and how much they inspire. I know you don't feel like that, but it's true.
No, that's really nice to be reminded of that. And it's, when I talk to a lot of different groups and kids groups, and when you get the little notes from the kids that show inspiration, that's what keeps you going, really.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
You don't even know what your life is going to be remembered how when you're actually not here anymore in the years to come.
Yeah.
You can count on on 2 hands, people like you,
Oh,
know?
thanks.
And it is, but, in business, in my life, building a company is like the Mount Everest of a career. It's really hard. Like, it's really good to just find a job and people complain
Yeah.
about it and work for someone else. Building a business, it's nothing to do with business itself. It's all to do with your brain. So what you have to learn, what you have to go through, the resiliency, these are your dreams, and it's the same with you. And it is lonely,
Yeah, I
it is
bet.
lonely. And but I cannot even think about being in a cave. I would go to space one day.
I'm
And
sure.
people will discover, like, trying to understand caves on Mars, on the moon. So, it's going to happen next 20 years. So you need to do a little bit more training.
I'm ready. There was a lot. NASA funded some trips. Do you know Bill Stone,
Oh,
William Stone
yeah,
Aerospace? So
yeah.
I've been on a lot of Bill expeditions, and they were, funded by NASA
Beautiful.
for that reason, right?
I think what you said is quite interesting because cave and oceans discovery doesn't have an agency like NASA, $1 billion behind it. But when there was the Apollo mission, it was a big, well-funded mission, okay? And the whole scope was to go to the moon just to see if that could land. So it was all about rockets and technology. Do you know how many patents got developed for humanity to go there? So many that it will blow your mind. And I'm not saying about rockets. I'm saying about
little things.
medicines
Yeah.
and, even the Velcro. Like Velcro was
Wow.
just little things that I'm sure you use in
No, we take for granted.
take for granted. Okay. So now there is a new mission called Artemis that
Sure.
is the idea to go and live, give humanity a chance to go and live on the moon and Mars or beyond that. And what we need to learn is different. So there are billions of dollars now invested on how can human live on another country, on another planet. So what it means is that where is water? Caves. Where is the resources?
Right.
On Mars, for example, we can't live on the surface. It's terrible. So do we need to find caves? So you'll be surprised that I think there are billions of dollars that are going to get invested in this in the coming 30 years. So money are coming your direction.
All right, I'm gonna eat healthy so I can keep doing it till I'm
You're
in my
still
80s,
young.
right? Yeah.
Tell me about the rest of your life. Hopefully, really, really long still. What's the next dream?
Now I think for the last phase, I want to get wild again.
It's time.
It's time. No,
It's time.
And still be very involved, but it's very different. Like I don't feel the urge right now that I have to be the one going deepest or furthest. I like putting together the teams. I still, of course, love being in the water and doing, extreme diving. But, to me, it's about the people. Because, on a long dive might be 5 hours, right? 6 hours. But you're spending a week with people.
Yeah,
So
it's preparing it. Yeah.
It's about who are the people you're with. And it's about personal relationships and that you're doing something that hopefully is making things better for humanity. But the next phase is also, being, I still love film and filmmaking. And
Have you ever struggled with mental health, like depression or moments of life that you thought, I'm not doing well?
I think now I realize that I did after a couple I had a very bad series of expeditions with people dying in horrible situations. And then my way of dealing with it was get on the next riskier expedition, keep going. And those, it's become, I think those are, I always downplayed the word, but I think they're really true. The traumas.
When you look back,
Yeah, when I look back and how they played out in ways that I didn't realize, now.
If you could talk to that you in that moment, would you tell yourself to stop and take care of yourself, or like?
I think maybe a serious personality flaw is like I still don't think I have regrets. Is that?
It's not a flaw. It's just I think it's great.
I mean, could I bring back my friends who died? Of
Oh, that
course,
you will do
that's
that.
different. That's a different. I would, of course, not be on that expedition, but those were, life-changing, defining who we were, who I am now, for better or for worse. I think it's just,
Is it that the curse of your life to know that things can happen, hey,
Yeah.
to you and to the people you love?
yeah,
I don't think the normal people understand that curse. Like you got just like I don't have it. Like
right.
even if I look at my friends that are going to space and if I look at people ask me, okay, if you get that ticket to go to Mars, would you go? And I say yes. I've been saying yes for 40 years.
Right.
And then I had kids and people ask me, would you still go? And I say yes. And they're like, why? I don't know why, Kenny. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I think even seeing the tragedies that you have seen with your friends and your colleagues, and I don't even want to get there. It's really, really, really sad. Evolution, like people like them, makes the world a beautiful place it is today.
No, it's true. And in the case, especially two very good friends who died, I'm very close with their children now. And we were talking earlier about the Thai cave rescue.
Yeah.
So my good friend who was on a big Bill Stone expedition back in the 90s, and it was just the two of us at the deepest point in the cave using experimental rebreathers and all sorts of, it was, that was a trip that was very much about testing technology.
Yeah.
And we were trading off at this crazy point in the cave, and my friend didn't come back, British Ian Rowland, and he died on the far side of the sump. It took many days to actually get him to the surface, but he had a teddy bear of his son on his helmet. Well, his son went on to become a very well-known British caver who was involved with the Thai cave rescue.
Oh, no.
So,
You're going to make me cry.
Yeah, I
yes,
mean,
you're going to make me cry.
Like with enough time, it would, of course, in that moment, I could have never imagined, you don't imagine that. But life comes full circle in the strangest of ways.
It's destiny.
I mean, and he's like a part of my family. He came and stayed with us. So it's,
Isn't it? That's okay. You made me cry.
Okay, good.
I
got that.
I think it's beautiful. We're talking about the cave rescue because one of the South Australian amazing explorer helped them. That son of your friend that they keep doing. Do you understand what it means as a generation genetic? Like feel something so close to your soul that nothing stops you.
Yeah.
Like, what happened to your friend and his son, he inspired his son and he saved people.
Yeah. No, it's
how
amazing.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Like saved people from something that, I watched 3 documentaries about their rescue that I'm pretty sure for your community was something incredible.
No, absolutely.
Incredible. And I found it incredible. And the story of your, you made me cry.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. That's the thing. People are destined to great things. And it's generational. They're feeling in the side. And what you said, when we test science and we test technology, it's risky. That's one of the scenarios that happened, with your friend. But you did that for people to do more, and oh my God, it's just all destiny. Like it's kind of everyone is at the right place at the right time to do exactly what is there for.
That's right.
In the human evolution cycle.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, when you do something that you love and the people that you love understand that you are in this world for a reason. Since, when you were the little boy jumping on the bike and go like, hey, everyone, 4 a.m. Thinking about my kids. You need to wake them up like 8:30. Come on, you have to go to school. And I'm thinking of that little Kenny jumping on the bike and jumping in the water and getting to the bus. And like, you can't stop that. Yeah. That love, you can't stop. And it could be for exploring, it could be for people that jump on a car and Formula One. And, it doesn't matter. There's something I love.
And some is no risk, no physical risk. It might be, my wife is very risky in science, like her theoretical and, approach to big climate problems. And you're putting yourself at risk in front of a community and your own, it's just we all have different types of risk we take.
You said something about them, and I want to close with this. You said that little Kenny, that when he was going at 4 a.m. on their bike or on their bus, was never stopped by his parents.
Yeah.
Never. Okay?
Important.
And you said maybe it was a different time, and I'm saying maybe this is what should happen. We need to just let them do, because at that age, 10, is where all your love is all over your skin. Like you feel your purpose in this world. And sometimes it's something random that no one understands. And as parents, we need to remind ourselves not to kill any dreams and any instinct at that time. So they did well. Okay. Yeah. Kenny, thank you so much for coming today. And I can't wait to see what you achieve next.
Yeah, we'll do something fun together.
We will. Yeah. Let's go to Mars.
Let's go to Mars. Okay. You go cave diving, I'll go to Mars.
Oh my God.
All right.